ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति भूरिदा जनाः. The nectar of thy words revives the scorched spirit of human beings. They purify the sinner and are the life of the holy. To hear them itself is auspicious and peace generating. They are the real givers who spread thy name far and wide. Welcome to the scripture class today, and today's scripture is the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. In the Gospel, we are on page 370. The topic is Yam at Dakshineswar, part 2. And this we have been continuing that how Master has gone to visit Ishan's house, and he's conversing with Ishan's son Srish, who was a lawyer and was a very nice person, very sattvic type person. With him, Sri Ramakrishna enjoyed talking with this young man. And the entry is recorded is on December 27, 1883. So Sri Ramakrishna said in the previous that for a householder, the attitude of bhakta is better than the attitude of jnani, who says, I am he. And Sri Ramakrishna is saying, I am he. For one, is difficult to perform if one realizes he is God or he is a divine soul. For him, it may be or her may be difficult to perform the householder's duties. For householders, that's why the attitude of bhakta, the God and me, that attitude makes a nice dealing with the world. It will happen. So he prefers that, and he says the Hanuman is the fifth line on page 370. Hanuman had the attitude of a servant. He said to Rama, O Rama, sometimes I meditate on you as the whole and on myself as the part. Sometimes I feel that you are the master and I am the servant. But when I have the knowledge of reality, I see that I am you and you are I. So Hanuman had the attitude of a servant. That was basic thing, though he was a bhakta. So to say that bhakta will have no knowledge of reality, that is not the case. Bhakta is the attitude with which we live in the world mostly. But bhakta doesn't mean they have no idea of that the illusoriness or the transitoriness of the world and the reality being one in all and it will always remain reality is undivided reality, and that is my true self, and that God and the Ishvara and the Jiva in the ultimate are all manifestations of Brahman. So it is not that the Bhakta will not have that kind of idea at all. Bhakta knows that. Yet Bhakta wants to live as Ishvara and Bhakta, Bhagavan Bhakta. That is the attitude with which they live in the world, because that is they feel more comfortable with that attitude. That suits their making of the mind and their work and their living. All that suits when Bhakta says, God, you and I am your servant, or I am your child, or I am your, like, you are my child, or anyway that way, any Shanta, Dasya, Vatsalya. The Dasya is mostly the bhakti, the God as someone who is to be served with all love. So Hanuman had the attitude of servant, that to be seen. Servant, often those had the servant in the home, or we have servant now at home. We feel that servant is something very it's very different, looked down upon something, and that they do for work. And where there is love between servant and master, we don't often see. Servant is work for the money, you give money and they will do your work. So they will cook for you, they will wash your clothes. That what happens in the Eastern countries, in the Asian countries, mostly in India. So how the servant and master relationship between God and the devotee matches with the servant and the master that we see in our behavior when we hire a servant to perform our household duties. So this servant is not that type of servant. He has no something for money it is done, or is not looked down upon by God. Servant is very beloved. Servant is the one who serves God with all his or her love. That's what Jesus said of the devotee should love God with all his mind, all his heart, and all his soul, um, that all his strength. So that is called servant who serves God with tremendous love. It is with love between the being and the being, the one who is loved, the lover and the beloved. The relationship between them is the relationship of servant and the master. Master is an object of tremendous love, where the service is the main thing. The, the servant is the one who always thinks of the master, who dedicates all his life for the master. Master is the object of his meditation, of his work, of his service, and full resignation to the master. So, master is the one who takes care of the servant. Here, devotee and God. The attitude, servant attitude is that. Servant attitude is full dedication for the service of the master, the God. So that's why it's called servant. So it's we should not mistake the servant master relationship like our servant for which we whom we hire for our some chores in our household in mostly in India. So Hanuman had that attitude, and yet he said that I am not always. Whenever I think myself as the deha, Deha buddhyatu dasoham. What we think when we say, how are you? So I got cut my cheek, like that we say. You didn't got cut on your cheek. It's a body which got cut on your cheek while shaving or while performing some act. You got cut in your finger. You didn't cut your finger. It's the body, finger of the body that got cut. So when we say, I got this cut my finger while cutting the dressing the vegetable. So that is Deha Buddhi. I think I am this body. So when I see body, then it's called Deha Buddhi. Your Buddhi, your ego has identified yourself with the body. Buddhi is the ego in one form. So that is called Deha Buddhi. So when I think myself as the body, says Sri Hanuman, that then I think I am your servant and you are my master. My life is to serve you, is to give whatever I have to you, is to make you happy, to please you. And in you being pleased, that is my greatest joy and satisfaction. I have nothing for myself. My whole life is only for you. So that is the attitude of a servant to the master. But when I think myself of the body, that distinction. You are separate, you are glorious, you are big, you are the best, and I am just nothing. And you're very. What I know, you know everything. You are the ocean of love. I have little love. You are the ocean of glory. I even don't want any glory. I just want your glory to increase. I don't want anything for myself. That type of servant is the attitude of servant. So when I embody that, but he says, when I think myself as the jiva is the being ego, I, the ego. When I then I realize that I am a part of you. You are whole and I am part. So Jiva is the part of Jivatma is the part of Paramatma, like that idea. I'm a small thing, but in quality I might be same as you, but I am small. I am limited, but you are unlimited. Otherwise, Satchidananda, we are all same Satchidananda. You are enormous. You are huge. I am little fragment. You are huge bonfire, and I am a spark. Like that thing is the attitude of when I consider myself as the Jivatma. But when I know that I am the self, the pure consciousness, then you and I are same. then I think you are me and I am you. No distinction is there. The beautiful Hanuman's that sloka we all know that Deha Buddhya tu Dasoham, Jiva Buddhya Tadangshaka, Atma Buddhya Tamevaham, Iti me Nishchitamati. There's no doubt about that. This firm conviction of mine is that. And whose mati is that? Whose buddhi is that? Who is the Jnaninam Agraganyam? Who is the foremost among Jnanis? You see, that is what is described about Hanuman. He is the foremost among the Jnanis, and yet his lifestyle, his thought and attitude is he wants always to remain the servant of Sri Rama. So that is what the devotees also want to do. And this is the best for the devotees. That Sri Ramakrishna says, worship God as something that is more greater, glorious, and you think yourself, just to please that God, whom to love that God, whole your life is that. And perform the duty, keeping God at your center. And yourself, you think that your duty is to please God. And how will God be pleased? By performing our duty towards in the world, performing our duty towards our spouse, our office, towards our children, towards our parents. Whenever we perform the duty with full sincerity, it's not to please them, it's to please our God, our Ishta. So to do that, you perform the duty well. Ishta is pleased, and its side effect is even the people whom you serve are pleased. Whether they are pleased or not, that is not the goal. To please them is not the goal. Goal is to please your Ishta. When you perform with all attention and seeing, then slowly when we start loving God with so much, then every being that we serve, that Rama doesn't remain in the palace in Ayodhya or in the temple in the statue. Rama then comes as your spouse, as your father, as your mother, as your children, as your grandchildren. All Rama becomes all manifold in that way, practicing mm, as the servant and master relationship. It matures into that, it grows into that. There's no limit of this devotion, this fruit getting fructification in that way. So beautifully it happens. That's what Sri Ramakrishna said. Hanuman, even knowing that, he would say that. In the state of perfect knowledge, one may feel I am he, but that is far beyond the ordinary man's experience, the soham. People may feel, may experience, Sri Ramakrishna himself experienced, but ordinary people, for them it is difficult to experience I am he, soham. So that is what it is said. Soham is for few people that they can experience that. But for most of this, you are different, I am different. You are the master, I am your servant. Or anyway, in the Sakya, Vatsalya, Asya, like that feeling. In the state of perfect, and then Shrish, that young man, this Ishan's son, says, that is true, sir. The attitude of a servant relieves a man of all his worries. The servant depends entirely upon his master. A dog is devoted to its master. It depends upon him and is at peace. How this young man has already this insight of spirituality, and he compared the servant. What are the benefit in having the servant master relationship with God? Freedom from worries, anxieties, fear, uncertainty. All are gone, which makes the world, samsara, so difficult. So this all is gone when we consider God as the master and feel that we are his servant. Then our whole life it depends on God, and God takes our care, and we are fully given to him, resigned to him, and know we are tools in his hand. Nothing to worry for me. He will take care. He is taking care. That type of surrender and resignation comes, then you become free from all these worries that the world causes. So beautiful attitude. The Sris is saying to Sri Ramakrishna, you see, how Ishans, he must have heard from Ishan, he must have thought about this type of attitude in the household. To a young man, he thought about this. And he gives the example of dog. So dog is always dependent upon the master. He doesn't have to think, he jumps. Only he loves the master. Master feeds him. Master takes him to walk. Master takes him when the dog is ill. All that master does, but dog just gives love to the master, just swags his tail and comes and jumps when the master comes, and that pure love for the master. And what Swami Shivanandaji, Mahapurush Maharaj, he had a dog, and he says, "This is my dog, and I am Sri Ramakrishna's dog." He used to say that. Dog in that sense. Dog means fully dependent on God and pleased to serve God, and fully dependent in the sense that type of dependence on God is the real freedom. That is the freedom. When you depend on someone and have no worries for yourself, then you are not dependent on your body or situation or circumstances, on the people. All that is taken away in one jolt. That every your dependence taken away because you are now dependent on God, who is your dearest being. And Name Bhakta Pranashyati, says God. My devotee never is lost. I always take his care, her care. So God, the omnipotent being, is now taking your care. You have the little power and you wanted to take your care. And you could not fit that, you could not take full care, and always were worried how this huge universe in front of you, so many people, so many different kind of people, so much changing situation, how to take care, always afraid where there will be carjack, where there will be theft, what will happen, like that. Depend on God. Depending on God means depending on God's will. When such dependence on God comes, then you don't worry for anything. Then will there be no carjacking or hijacking for you, because you depend on God, you love God dearly, you feel you are servant of God. No, that time also it may happen, but it will happen by the will of God. There will be no fear for that. God willing, anything can happen. And you have full faith in God, that God does only what is good for you. If car is stolen, you say, yes, God wanted that. That it was God's plan. It was the thief taking away. God wanted, car has gone. From tomorrow, public transit. Okay, doesn't matter. God wants me to do that. When God wanted, I had the car. Now God wanted, I should be without car. Public transit. Same surrender to the will of God. Same freedom. No worries, no complaint, nothing to that devotee of God. Isn't it the freedom? You are not bound to one particular object. You are free in this life, whether the things come to you or go to you. No worries, anxieties, and tension free. How to overcome mental tension. One Swamiji wrote a beautiful book, Swami Gokulananda. Like that, you become free from all tension when we are fully surrendered to God and God's will, knowing fully whatever God does to you, it is for your good. It was meant to be. Only this will make you good. You had a car is gone, that is for your good. So we have to have that faith. How it is good, now it's so much trouble in the winter, you have to stand and wait for the bus. That is for my good. God wants me to have little practice austerity. I had become too much in the luxury and depending on God. It has to be warm in winter, AC in summer, and like that. Everything depends on the thing. God wants to me to practice little austerity, and because God wanted that, I am happy to listen to the command of God. That is the freedom the devotee gets. And that's it. That's what the Sris says about the relationship between God, dog and the master. So dog always depend on the master and free from, doesn't worry for, like a child and mother, exactly the same thing. Child and mother. Child fully dependent on mother. doesn't worry himself for himself or herself at all, for itself. So food comes in time, medicines come in time, the stories come, joy comes, playing comes, everything happens. Mother is always there. And child is just must. It's called must. So that musti comes when you have full surrender to the will of God. Was musti. No worries. May what happen. And whatever happens, happens to my good. That much faith we need to have on God. God is reality. God is my guardian. God is my object of love. God is my everything. Natha tumi sarvasya amar. Lord, you are my everything. Everything. You are my brother, sister, relation, money, wealth, fame. You are my everything. I don't seek anything else. In you, I get fulfillment. What other people get in wealth, in name and fame, in becoming rich. But I am so contented to be with you. You are my contentment. You are my joy. That's what it's called. Natha tumi sarvasya amar. Oh Lord, you are my all, Lord. You are my everything. So that's what relationship that Sri Ramakrishna says, and the Sris also supports that. Master. Well, what suits your taste? God with form or the formless reality? But to tell you the truth, he who is formless is also endowed with form. To his bhaktas, he reveals himself as having a form. It is like a great ocean, an infinite expanse of water, without any trace of shore. Here and there, some of the water has been frozen. Intense cold has turned it into ice. Just so, under the cooling influence, so to speak, of the bhakta's love, the infinite appears to take a form. Again, the ice melts when the sun rises. It becomes water as before. Just so, one who follows the path of knowledge, the path of discrimination, does not see the form of God anymore. To him, everything is formless. The ice melts into formless water with the rise of the sun of knowledge. But mark this, form and formlessness belong to one and the same reality. God is with form for the devotee. God is without form for the person of knowledge and discernment. But both are not mistaken. Whether with form or without form, it is same God. God that one thinks without form, that very God appears as with form to a devotee. And the beautiful example Sri Ramakrishna gives, it's a unique example. He gives that just like the water in the cold regions, it freezes the water of ocean, infinite expanse of ocean without any shore. Just imagine that. And in the cold, it just freezes at the places and becomes ice. What makes it freeze? The cold. And cold, what is cold? It is the devotion of a devotee. And that infinite formless being takes the shape of a form because of the devotion of the devotee. Because the devotee wants to see in that form. So that is what beautiful song that Swami Premeshanand ji wrote. Arupa Sayare Leela Lahari. Mutila Mridula Bai. That was there was formless, nameless ocean, and in that one breeze came, breeze of breeze of kindness, compassion, and the waves started coming. Waves started form. That wave is the form of that ocean. It is out of compassion for the devotee that waves started, the form started, and the name, big wave, small wave, beautiful wave, huge wave, like all are the name of the waves given. Like that, the form came of the same formless reality for the sake of the devotee, for the devotee enjoy. That formless reality then is seen that Akhanda Satta Satchidananda is seen as Khanda, as Kali, as Krishna, as Ramakrishna, as Jesus, whatever you like, want to see God in any form, Murugan, Ayyappa, any form you like, that God will take that. Ardhanarishwara, there are so many forms of God. So that becomes, that's Sri Ramakrishna's beautiful saying. And that then eyes, that then comes their person of knowledge. And then he says, where is the form? I don't see any form. I see only water. I don't see any expanse of anything, wave or anything. In ice also, the man of knowledge has the source pointed buddhi that he or she sees only water there, water frozen or water in liquid form, but all is water, nothing else but water. So the knowledge, the sun of knowledge, as it were, melts the form into formlessness. That he only sees water in, whether it is ice or liquid water, he sees only the water molecules there. So that is the man of who tries to go deeper and see the thing, and try to see the thing as it is. But misses if he doesn't see the beauty of the ice, so he misses. As Sri Ramakrishna says, only trying to see God as only formless reality, only one. I don't have that attitude, he says. And as if you have a flute and you blow it and it says boom, sound comes. You blow again, boom. But there are so many holes. You can make the music of that. So many ragas can come. Sare gama and then music, and then you play beautiful music comes from that flute. Why will I only do only boom like that? That is the work of the jnanis, he said that. They don't want any varieties. They don't enjoy that. They see all is that manipulation of hand and the breath. Just what reality is that sound that passes through that and only one sound. But he says, I enjoy that many ragas and raginis of the flute. So many forms of God, not only one form, not only the form of Ishta. I am a devotee of Shiva, so I will not look upon Vishnu or look upon Mother Kali. Or if I'm a devotee of Mother Kali, no, I don't want to go to Durga Puja. I am a Mother Kali devotee. They are like again playing the flute of only one form, very small minded. But the broad minded, they will see Mother Kali is also God in Mother Kali's form. What a beautiful form. See the image of a Mother Kali in Dakshineswar. Oh, so gorgeous looking with the sari and the ornaments and the sword. And so wonderful, blissful mother is there. And Durga, 10 hands, 10 arms, and the lion, and the sitting and trying to protect the world with her children all around. And the glorious puja going, another glory of God. Then Shiva meditating on the Himalayas, calm and quiet, free from rustle and bustle of this world, aloof from that, another way, another form of God. Vishnu, all with four arms bedecked. Krishna, two arms, beautiful peacock and the flute playing, and have so much of Leela. Rama, the wielding of bow and arrow, great warrior, and protecting the world, removing the dross from the world of the worldliness. That Rama, glorious, bow down to Rama. So the one who accepts God in many forms, he enjoys going to Ayodhya same way as he enjoys going to Mathura, or going to Kailas or Kedar or Badri, no difference. But if we are narrow-minded, they will say Shiva Bhakta, oh, I like Kedar and I don't like Badri. Or then Vishnu is worshipped. My God is Shiva. Though some good is there, but if you are limited and cannot enjoy all forms of God, you miss. You miss to enjoy God in various forms. Sri Ramakrishna says, I want to enjoy God in many, many ways. How the Christians worship, how the Muslims worship, how the Shakta worship, how Vaishnava worship. I want to enjoy God in all methods of worship, in the meditation in all ways, in seeing the vision of God in various forms. That is what Sri Ramakrishna's attitude is. At dusk, the master was ready to start for Dakshineswar. He stood on the south porch of the drawing room, talking to Ishan. Someone remarked that the chanting of God's holy name did not always produce results. You see, this always we have. What will happen by doing japam? I've been doing japam for so long. I took initiation 1 year ago, did japam. I feel so no change in me. I have same greed, same anger, same haughtiness. Nothing has changed. So what it says? Let's see. Ishan said, Sri Ramakrishna has not spoken here. Ishan said, how can you say that? The seeds of an ashwatha tree are no doubt tiny, but in them lie the germs of big trees. It may take a very long time for them to grow. Even Sri Ramakrishna has not said, but how the idea of Sri Ramakrishna is spreading among his devotees and among his admirers and followers. All they say, there is God. God's name is as powerful as God. It has the purifying power. It has the spiritualizing power. It has the power of cleansing power of all our dross, of all that makes us down and low. That will be taken away by the name of God. And Ishan says, how can you say that? Even God's name, it may take time, like the seed of spirituality. Go on doing that. It may take time, but it will definitely have its result. Holy Mother said to one lady came to Holy Mother, and she said, "My husband is giving trouble. He's at a good means. He's intoxicated. He's addicted to alcohol. Mother, please tell me something." So Mother gave her one flower and willow leaf and said, "Take it at home, keep it near your shrine," and gave her mantra and said, "Repeat this mantra." And that lady was doing the mantra, no change. 1 month, 1 year, 2 years, nothing changed. But that lady had so much faith in the words of Holy Mother. She went on chanting the mantra, repeating the mantra with full faith that there will be time, there will be definitely a change. And after 12 long years, her alcohol addicted husband comes to Sri Ramakrishna after 12 years of wait. This Kalipada Ghosh comes to Sri Ramakrishna, and Sri Ramakrishna touches him and starts shedding the tears. Change has already come. How this mantra can have effect, that we have to have patience and faith. If only patience, only go on doing it somebody else. Faith, slowly love has to grow for the mantra, because mantra is God Himself. And then it has its power to transform our lives. Here, not even the life of the lady, even life of her husband was transformed by that. Why an alcohol addicted person will come to Sri Ramakrishna, all renouncing monk? Why will he come? Power of mantra, that his wife was repeating every day. That is what he said, that it may take long, very long time, but it has its effect, because seed will sprout into a huge ashwatha tree. Master says, "Yes, yes," said the master. "It takes a long time to see the effect." So that's how long time may be there. And when you have the patience to have the long time, then it may come quickly. God tests our patience. So there is one story, that one person was very much meditating, and Narada came on that way, and he said, "Oh, I have been meditating from my long many years, but no vision of God, no spiritual progress." And we were, "Where are you going, Narada?" He says, "I'm going to Vishnu's place, Vaikuntha." "Oh, you are going there? Can you ask for me how long more I'll have to do to get the illumination?" And he said, "Okay, I'll ask the Lord." Then he went ahead, and there was one man, very jolly, happy, and doing that. And there's another tamarind tree he was sitting. And he said, "Oh, Narada, you are going to Vaikuntha. Can you ask how long will there be any chance of my redemption, spiritual illumination? I don't know anything about the mantra or worship or meditation, but will there be something like that I can cross this samsara? So can I have this illumination?" Uh, they say, "Okay, I'll ask." And then Narada comes back, and after some time comes back, and that meets the person, first person, and he asks, how long I'll have to wait? Did you meet Vishnu and did you ask my question? Yes, I asked him. So how long? Vishnu said, 3 lives more you have to do practice. 3 lives still. I have been doing it for so many decades. Nothing happening. Now again I will die and I'll be born, and again I'll have to do the whole thing. For him, the spiritual practice was a drudgery. Spiritual practice should be a thing of joy. Repeating God's name should be a joy. Then it is real repeating God's name. And that person, Narada, went ahead. And he again met that person who was under the tamarind tree. And did you remember to ask about me? And that man asked to Narada. Yes, yes, I asked. So what did the Lord say? And he said that, oh, you have not done any practice, and just you have started, just I don't know how you have the idea without doing any practice, you will attain the mukti. Then what did Lord said? Oh, you will have to do many, many, many lives. How many lives? As many there are leaflets in this tree. So many lives you will have to be born and do sadhana after year, after life. Then you will. Then that man started dancing, so happy. Oh, that means there is a end of this samsara. I will get illumination. So one after another, there will be birth, and so many leaves. It is countable. It's not infinite. I will never be always under the ground, and no chance for my redemption is not there. There is will be end of my this samsaric life, and I will get the bliss of mukti. And he started dancing. So when he died, the Ratha came. All the tamarind leaves, so many lives, vanished. How it vanished? By the positive attitude of that person. Yet that patience of that person. All were gone. So that person got mukti in that very life because of his faith in God and his readiness to accept all that may come in his sadhana. He is ready to practice the sadhana life after life, because if sadhana, I have to attain that. So this type of positive attitude, being happy in all the situations, that makes us closer to God suddenly. And all the distance between God and us vanishes. We find we are with God, in front of God. God has revealed. It's all about revelation. God is always there in front of us. There is nothing but God. But somehow our ignorance, our impurity, it hides God, and we see this world as the world. This person, this is a bad person, this is a good person. Oh, that person is very greedy, so much talkative, and that is always why that person does. All is our impurity we put in between, and we see God as this person, this defect, that defect. There is nothing like that. All are different forms of same God. When we have that sort of idea, that vanishes. Divine stands in front of me in the form of God, in the form of squirrel, in the form of tree, in the form of cloud, in the form of temple, in the form of any form, river. The God divine just reveals itself in so many beautiful forms, and in every form you look and you enjoy the God, the beloved, God, the bliss, God, the existence supreme. That's how it happens. So the master was saying that about that. There is the effect. It may take time, have patience, and practice, and enjoy your practice, spiritual practice. Sometimes people say, "Oh, Swami, I did this practice. Okay, I read Upanishad. You said you to read the Upanishad. I read, and you said read Gita. I read. After that, what? After that, you read which Upanishad? Katha. Now, Mandukya also I read. After that, what? If I finish all of it, after that, what to do? Nothing to do. You will have to live that life. What is that to do? It is to live a life of spiritual seeker and find joy in that. There is joy in living a life of spiritual seeker itself. Go on living on that. So it's not something finishing, something doing and let go, and after that taking another thing. It is not saying that I have read this and I have done that. I do in the morning. I do pranayama, like puraka, rechaka, and I see it. I chant so much Gita, like 1 hour I chant the Gita, and after that I do this. It's not about doing. It is about living a spiritual life, and everything in that life becomes so joyful. Reading the Gita Chandi is a part of your life. It is not something doing, it is living the life of a reader of Chandi. That should give us joy. So, that is what the spiritual practice is. Every bit of spiritual practice be a thing of joy. There are both, Sri Ramakrishna continues. No, he says, um, next to Ishan's was his father in law's house. Sri Ramakrishna stood at the door of this house, ready to get into the carriage. So from Ishan's house, he went to father-in-law's house, beside, but next to it was, and he will get into the carriage. Ishan and his friends stood around to bid him adieu. Sri Ramakrishna said to Ishan, "You are living in the world as a mudfish. As a mudfish lives in the mud. It lives in the mud, but its body is not stained." So, Padmapatra Mivambasa, mudfish living in the mud, all are same. You live in the world has not touched you. It's no wrong to be in to live in the water, be like a boat which will live in the samsara, the water of the samsara. But samsaras will not enter into the boat. Then is the problem. Boat may sink. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna liked Ishan very much. And that's what he had that thing. You're already living a life like a mud fish, not touched by the mud of the world. And you're free from that. Uh, there are both Vidya and Avidya in this world of Maya. Who may be called a Paramahamsa? He who, like a swan, can take the milk from a mixture of milk and water, leaving aside the water. He who, like an ant, can take the sugar from a mixture of sugar and sand, leaving aside the sand. So, two examples Sri Ramakrishna gives that how a person should live in the world. So, always taking the good thing, always what is beneficial, what is good. Get that, be into that, and do not and then reject and refuse the thing that will make you more samsari, make you more attached to the world. Try to do that. And Paramahamsa is that. He says highest state of Paramahamsa means one who has the highest knowledge of the reality. That is a Paramahamsa. So Paramahamsa does that. He separates milk from the water in the milk. Milk is separated, and that's how it's. You cannot separate the milk from the water. It's one. But Paramahamsa has that discernment. He can separate milk from the water. He can separate God from in this world. What is separating God from this world? He doesn't see the world. He sees only God. God, the world appears in its real form as God. The vision of ungodliness has gone. Vision of seeing defect, finding fault has gone. And everything seems to be divine for that person. The person has become Paramahamsa. When we see God in everything, we have become Paramahamsa. We have become like that swan. And seeing only like an ant who can find out the sugar grain from the sand. So, like that is the discernment one needs to do. Vidya and Avidya Maya. So, Sri Ramakrishna beautifully describes what Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya. Maya is when we have ego, I sense, that is Maya. I separate from the universe. And Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya. The Maya can present itself in two ways. One is that the egotistic, proud person who is always proud of his achievement, of his glories, of his what success, always thinking that that person, I have done this, I I owe this, I own this thing, like that. That is Avidya Maya. And Vidya Maya is I am the devotee of God. I enjoy doing meditation. I enjoy being with the devotees of God. I that serving someone gives me great joy. Being helped to someone gives me joy. This all also Maya. What is that? Vidya Maya. Vidya Maya takes us closer to God. Avidya Maya drowns us in the worldliness. So that's what two types of Maya, Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya, Sri Ramakrishna describes. I was thinking that if this was like Sri Ramakrishna went to Ishan's house and such a wonderful talk with Ishan's son, and so many beautiful conversation he himself had gone. So at the time, at the end, when all had come together, if he was during this time, what would happen at the end? Then all would say, Thakur, let us have your picture. And someone said, let me have selfie with you. All this would happen. But there was no selfie and this phone camera and all that. So they came, folded their hands, filled their heart with joy. And that memory, they didn't have to have this artificial selfie memory or artificial phone memory of photograph. The memory of Sri Ramakrishna's visit there was in their heart as long as they lived, as long as their memory didn't fade away. So that was the real thing, more permanent. When we took photographs in the cell phone, what happens? Many people don't even see that photograph after. No memory of that. It doesn't inspire you. You just take the photo, stand, now you smile, you just say cheese, and you take the photo. After that, that photo is not seen. It goes into archive, Google Photos, this photo, it goes there, and you never even see that. And it doesn't inspire you at all. So, but that time when these gadgets were not there, this outer show was not there, there was the real memory of like this meeting with some great persons. So they didn't miss because they didn't have this phone, cell phone camera, and all that. They didn't miss. They were the gainers. We are rather the losers now. It was evening. The master stopped at Ram's house on his way to Dakshineswar. You see, in dusk he left and not going to Dakshineswar again. How much Sri Ramakrishna worked for the devotee. Just see his works. Swami Vivekananda says, Karma kalevara madbhuta chestam. His body was fully given to work for whole day. So whole evening, afternoon he was at Ishan's. So it spoke so much always. Now he goes to Ram's place on the way. He's still not going and retiring. Oh, I'm tired. I need retirement. Nothing of that. No tiredness or retirement for Sri Ramakrishna. He goes to another devotee, that Ram. He was taken to the drawing room and there he engaged in conversation with Mahendra Goswami. Mahendra belonged to the Vaishnava sect and was Ram's neighbor. Sri Ramakrishna was fond of him. There is one Mahendra Mukherjee, another, he likes Sri Ramakrishna like that, also two brothers, Mahendra Mukherjee brothers. And this is Mahendra Goswami. Goswamis are generally devotees of Vishnu or Krishna. So they are Vaishnavas mostly. And this person was a very good person, devotee of God, with good habits and all that. Master. The worshippers of Vishnu and the worshippers of Shakti will all ultimately reach one and the same goal. The ways may be different. The true Vaishnavas do not criticize the Shaktas. You see how Sri Ramakrishna is trying to make harmony among different groups of people who were little divided. But not that much division in Bengal, but there was. So if you are true Vaishnavas, you don't criticize Shaktas. That worshippers of Shakti are also worshippers of God. Is the same God appearing as Vishnu, same God appearing as Kali. So true Vaishnava will understand this, says Sri Ramakrishna. Whenever we see someone criticizing, some Vaishnava criticizing Shakta, then we have to see that he is a Vaishnava, no doubt, but this true thing has not yet added to it. So it is a little less than true Vaishnava. So true Vaishnava do not criticize Shaktas, and in the same way, true Shaktas do not criticize Vaishnava. Problem is, it's not the Shaktas that mostly criticize. Shaktas are among themselves and they are not into much criticism. Vaishnavas somehow, they say that my path alone is the right path. All others are going the wrong way. So worshipping Shakti and Kali and the violence and all that. How can God be like that? They want to limit God as they see God. They want to define God as they want God to be. God can be many more than what they think. God can be worshipped in many more ways. That Vaishnavas don't want to accept that. And they say anyone who differs from them in worship of God, in the form of God that they worship, they do not really feel that they are really worshipping God. That's why the different term comes that says the true devotee or not a true seeker of God, like that. And Sri Ramakrishna did not like that. Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda says, hated one thing like Kamini Kanchana. If he hated one other thing than like Kamini Kanchana or attachment to the lust and lucre, it was Matuar Buddhi. That the Buddhi which says my mat or my method alone is right and yours is not right. That's called Matuar Buddhi, fanatic type. The fanaticism Sri Ramakrishna hated, like the attachment to lust and lucre, worldliness. And though these people try to be devotee of God, they want to go beyond the attachment to world, the things of lust and lucre. But yet they have matuar buddhi. My path alone is the right path. The way, the form of God that I worship is the right form of God, or the formlessness of God is the right way to think of God, and all else is not right. So this is called bigoted or fanatic or matuar buddhi in Bengali. So that matuar buddhi Sri Ramakrishna didn't like. Here he says, true Vaishnava will not criticize Shakta. And what was this? Let us see what this Mahendra Goswami was. Goswami smiling. Shiva and Parvati are our father and mother. Parvati Jagatah Pitaro Bande Parvati Parameshwaro. So Shiva and Parvati are our father and mother. That Goswami said. Sri Ramakrishna, out of his stock of a dozen English words, said sweetly, "Thank you." Then he added, "Yes, father and mother." What a beautiful, how happy Sri Ramakrishna was to find that broad mindedness in a devotee of Vaishnava devotee, any devotee, Shakta devotee, Vaishnava devotee, Saura, Ganapatya, any devotee have accepting different ways of worship. Why only South Shakta and Ganapatya and Saura, while Vaishnava? What about the Sanatana Dharmis with the Islam, or Islam with the Christians, Christians with the Jews? Jews with the Sikhs, Sikhs with the Jains, all are worshipping same God in different ways. That was Sri Ramakrishna's his gift to the world, that to find and accept the ways others worship God. Not only worshiping, others' way of talking, others' way of eating, others' way of liking something else. All that makes the world so rich, and we need to accept this variety that the world has been created by God, in the form of the human beings, this ethnicity, the skin color, language, culture, religion, faith, and so many, one type of religion, so many different kind of branches, and all with all this variety, the world is so wonderful place to live, knowing fully we are all children of one God. That God we call by different names. The same God I say as Vishnu, you say as Shiva, another says as Kali, still the fourth one says as Krishna. Same God. To accept this, understand this, and live in this world of various and varieties. So, how beautiful this world will be if we accept everyone just from our heart. Let him worship in his own way, whatever he may call or she may call God by whatever name. But he's worshiping the same God. She is meditating on the same God in a different way, thinking a different form, but that is same. And there's no animosity or hatred or trying to make everyone like oneself. That's why Sri Ramakrishna said him, thank you, he said in English, out of a dozen English words. What are the other words? I don't know, but must be some. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna was very pleased to hear this from Goswami. Goswami. Besides, it is a sin to criticize anyone, especially a devotee of God. All sins may be forgiven, but not the sin of criticizing a devotee. Beautiful words he said. That Swami Vivekananda at one place said, Kashi, about the glory of Varanasi, he said, all the sins that are committed in other places, when you come to Varanasi and take a dip on in Ganga, they're all absolved, all are removed. But if you commit any sin in the holy city of Varanasi, how to clean that? So be careful when you are in your place of pilgrimage. You should be very pure, that no impure thoughts should come to your mind. So because it will be difficult to clean that. So it will clean all the things, all the thoughts. So before going to pilgrimage, we should practice for that. There are so many practices going to, if you have heard about Sabrimala, there is a temple of Ayappa. And going to Sabrimala, people have to live in, like, they have to eat one day, sleep on the floor, wear particular dress, they cannot shave their head and beard, and do a lot of austerity. This preparation is for going to the holy place where no other thought than the thought of God can come. These austerities have meaning. So that's why one should go to the places of pilgrimage with very pure mind. So no impure thought comes. And here the Goswami, Mahendra Goswami says that if we find criticize any devotee of God, that will be a sin, and you should not criticize. In Vedanta also says that the Brahmagyani, if we find defect in Brahmagyani, which who has gone beyond all karmas, suppose Brahmagyani does something, and we see there is some mistake in that. And if you find the defect in the Brahmagyani or mistake in the Brahmagyani can do that, but he has no difference in others. He's gone beyond all, right and wrong. So if he sees something is doing as wrong, that all the wrong that he might have done, that all the sin of that karma of that comes to the one who sees wrong in a Brahmagyani. That is said in the Vedanta. In Vaishnava also, he says anyone who sees, criticizes the devotee of God, all sins will come to that. Sri Ramakrishna didn't like the word sin. So uh, master. But this idea of sin does not by any means affect all. For instance, the Ishvara Kotis, such as incarnations of God, are above sin. Sri Chaitanya is an example. He gives the example of Sri Chaitanya, whose follower was the Mahendra Goswami. So, um, there will be no sin accrued to some people. They will never have any sin like that. True devotees of God, like the Brahmagyanis. So that's what he said. But we have to be careful about finding fault with the devotees of God. Which level, who is there, we don't know at all by seeing outside. If we see a defect in the devotee of God, any person, if we see defect, that defect is coming to me. If I see a defect in a devotee of God, that defect is coming to me in many fold. That very defect is going to come to me. So that is called sin by this Brahma, this thing, our Mahendra Goswami. And Sri Ramakrishna said that everyone doesn't see sin in everything, like not just by any sin. Ishvara Koti is like incarnations of God. Ishvara Koti is not that the crores of Koti in Bengali is crore. But here Koti doesn't mean number. Here Koti means category. The category of Ishvara. Like Ishvara, these people are like Ishvara. Sri Ramakrishna himself said there are 6 young people coming to him who are the Ishvara Koti. He said Narendranath, Rakal, Baburam, like so many others are like Ishvara Koti. They are very pure from very birth. They are of the category of God. That's what the Ishvara Koti. And Sri Ramakrishna continues, a child walking on a narrow reed and holding to his father may slip into the ditch, but that can never happen if the father holds the child by the hand. So this is beautiful example of Sharanagati. Holding God with hand. Still you are holding, not full Sharanagati. And fully will be what? I don't know how to hold. Lord, please hold my hand. When you hold God's hand, there is a chance that you may slip. Your hands may slip and you may fall in the ditch. But when God holds your hand, then you will never slip and fall into a ditch. That is the full Saranagati. I don't know anything. Lord, please hold my hand and please take me the way you want to take me. I don't have any power even to hold on. That this full giving, resigning, and putting, surrendering yourself fully to God. Ultimate mukti. You are free from all the bondage of this thing. Life, God is taking care. Death, God will take care. No worries this life, no worries at that time, no worries after death. When you have so much relying on God, God definitely takes care. Name Bhakta Pranashyati. My devotee is never destroyed, says Sri Krishna. And Sri Ramakrishna says, when you rely on a powerful and rich person, he generally doesn't ditch whom he says, yes, I will take your care. Generally, it doesn't happen. So when God has accepted you and he is taking your care, how can God will ever fail you? God never fails. The one who does never fails is God. So that's the beautiful words of Sri Ramakrishna, which, as we said in the beginning from the Gopi Gita, they are the life of the holy, and they are removers of the suffering of the people from this world. And those who recount that, those who spread his message, they are the real givers to the world. Real givers of what? Givers of joy and truth, and removers of problems, difficulties, impurities, all that comes from the words of God, words of scripture, and the scripture that is most easily understandable, little thought, no problem of language, uh, no this, not of the words, simple explanation in a conversation, and that can go into straight to the heart. It doesn't have to go through our brain and think what Sri Ramakrishna meant that. It goes straight to the heart. That is the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So we'll meet next Friday and the scripture will be the Uddhava Gita. Until then, good night to all of you. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu Jananiim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnan Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhu